Well, good morning. Doing things a little different today. I didn't know when I would make time to film, and I decided to do it this morning. And I'm out here on a little rocking swing on a porch, and it's pretty early in the morning. And I love early mornings. I love the calm and the quiet. And for the last couple days, I've been wondering what should I make this video about. And one idea that I've had for quite a while, but I haven't made yet, is the simple things that I already have that make me feel rich. And this is inspired by a couple of different blog posts that I've seen over the years. And I'll try to include links to those down in the description so you could also go look at those. Um, One of them was an article from Mr. Money Mustache, which I actually reread again just last night. The real benefit of being wealthy, and in that article, he describes his lifestyle as this fantastically luxurious experience. And then he turns around and he explains the exact same thing, but from a perspective of criticism and constantly appraising the rundown, perhaps, or secondhand quality of many of his things. And I liked it because, I mean, I've always liked that article, and because I could look at my life that way as well. I could look around at my wardrobe and see that 99% of it comes from thrift stores, and I could be, I guess, depressed by that. But I'm really not, of course. I feel like I made out like a bandit. um, you could look at the fact that, okay, my bike is, I got to buy it new, but I bought it on sale, and it was the cheapest bike with the biggest discount on that day that I could find, and that's how I got to have a new bike. Which, of course, I think it was like a 2 or 3 year old model anyway, but it was new to me. Um, I could look at my bike and feel, ridiculous about that, or I could look at my bike and be like, yeah, I have a brand name bike that functions and fits me, and I love it. So just kind of opening up your eyes to the quality, not the quality, but the value, the real value of what you have and what it gives you. The way that you look at your stuff and the way that you look at your lifestyle can have a big impact on if you feel good about your life or not. And I feel great about my life. And some of the attitude adjustment that he describes is an attitude adjustment that I have had over time in my life. And some of it even came from reading his blog. Some of it came from the life experiences that I was having when I started deciding to get serious about my debt and taking care of things and actually getting out of debt and building the life that I want. Another thing that has been inspiring to me and helped me to make some big decisions, such as moving to Idaho, um, moving to northern Idaho and simplifying my life was a choice that I made. Um, it was a choice I made because of really wanting to be close with my loved ones. And I had always been for so long sort of like a satellite in my family. Like they're here and I'm always out on some perimeter, um, 200, 300, 500, 600 miles away doing something completely different than their lives, um, and always kind of feeling out of touch. I would call home not even as often as I should have, but I would call home and my parents would talk about how they just got back from being at my sister's house with their grandkids. And I knew that I only saw them once or twice a year and had nothing like that day to day intimacy. And I really wanted that. And something that helped me realize that I wanted that, because I don't know if I would have realized that I wanted that, but something that helped me realize that I wanted that is actually a very funny, sort of almost like a comic blog, um, Wait But Why. And I can't remember the guy's name who creates this, but it's also a really fun blog. And he takes questions about all different kinds of things and he makes fun, like animated infographics and charts. Um, and so there were two things on Wait But Why, and I'll again try to find them and put the links in the description. But two different articles kind of gave me a perspective on life that I now have and that or at least they put it into words, that I now have and that really matter. And one of them was an article about the amount of time that you have in your life, and the feeling that people you care about a great deal are just always going to be there, um, but that there's exponentially less time with them in most people's lives. So I can't remember exactly the graph, so finding the link will be valuable here. But when you are growing up with your parents, and this all assumes that you want to be with them, when you're growing up with your parents, you literally spend 24/7 in their household. You might not really see them 24 hours a day, but like, let's say 12. And then you go to school, and that reduces to something like 5 hours maybe. You get into high school, you might get into more extracurricular activities, and then it's down to like maybe 3 or 4 hours a day interaction with your family. And then you might go away to college and see them just every few months, or not even that. And then you might be gone and move away for work, and you see them at the holidays. And so there's just this less and less actual time together. And when I saw his chart about that, and it makes assumptions, that you moved away and did all these things and whatever. I can't even remember it specifically, but I do remember realizing, I do only see my family about once a year, and twice if it's a good year and we're lucky and everything works out that I'm free to travel. And that means that these most important people to me are getting like 12 hours a year. And that just didn't seem good enough all of a sudden. And especially if I could maybe not bump it up to see them 8 hours a day. I don't know if I want to see them for 8 hours a day. But if I could bump it up to seeing them a few hours a month, that's a huge improvement. And that's more time to know each other as adults, which is actually when it's fun to know your parents. Bumping it up to several hours a month, or maybe even a few hours a week, has been great. So that was an interesting little think piece that definitely influenced my decision to live near family again. Wow, got some morning hair here. And then he had another piece, again on Wait But Why, and it was about viewing the days of your life as pixels. And I don't remember everything that he got to in this, and there were many interesting ways to frame time and to think about how you use your days and your weeks. So I'll include that link, but what it inspired me to do, and I'm like super analog girl, and I really need tangible things to think with. I journal in order to think clearly. I make charts and graphs, and I draw them by hand, and this is one of them. I want to show you. This will get really exciting. But I made a chart of all the months of my life, and I got ambitious, and I made it so that if I live to be 100, there's enough space on this chart. But even if I have an average lifespan of sometime in my 70s or maybe my 80s, there's plenty of room on this chart. And every month I cross a month off, and so it's interesting because then at a glance I can see my life, and I can see the possibilities of the future. And it also has really helped me to put less positive experiences into perspective, because when I look at, say, my first career and how difficult and stressful that was, and it was 4.5 years, well, it's a tiny part of this chart. So I'm going to try to show it to you. And let's see, I laid it here on the thing next to me. So my birthday's in August, so I actually started it with August at the top, and the months go across. And then the years go down, and there's a lot of years. And let's all hope, right? Let's hope there's a lot of years to go. But I'm gonna turn 38 in a few months, and I might just be just under halfway. And that puts so much in perspective. Even getting out of debt is, when I set out, I said, I have a 5-year plan to get out of debt. And that was around the time I was turning 35. And so by 40, I'm out of debt. And then those years are just a very narrow band across this entire lifespan possibility. So it helps me to realize that, yeah, this is hard and it's not always fun, even though it's kind of inspiring. It's not always fun, but it's only going to be that much. It's only going to be that much of the total, and I'll be able to have a lot more fun in a while. It's coffee time. Good coffee. Good coffee makes me feel rich, that's for sure. Let's see. Things that I already have that make me feel rich. Now, again, feeling rich to me, what does that mean? What do I associate with that? Well, I associate feeling rich not with, feeling like I can go dive around in a pile of gold coins like Scrooge McDuck or something. But I associate feeling rich with being like free from worry, which is such a powerful thing, to be free from worry, at least about your finances. And then you can focus on everything else in life that isn't financial and that actually matters, like family and being close and taking care of maybe a little patch of land and making the world better. I associate feeling rich with just not having to worry about money so that you can focus on everything else that matters. And of course, things and even money can't necessarily make you feel that way. There are certainly lots of people with everything that they want and all the money they could want, and they don't feel peaceful. And on the other hand, there are people who have nothing and they feel great. So it's clearly a mindset thing. And so that's why some of my list is items that are, of course, very intangible, but they're worth pursuing because they help, at least me, they help me to have a foundation that is pretty peaceful and able to focus on what matters. So, some things that make me feel rich that I already have. Right now, my schedule allows me to have very slow mornings most days of the week, and I love a slow morning. I love being able to relax. I hope rocking in this swing chair doesn't distract too much. I love having slow mornings and being able to start the day with a cup of coffee and reflecting and being quiet. Every now and then my housemate wakes up at the same time as me and he gets all chatty, and I have to go like hide in my room because I'm not really ready to converse yet, but I do love that quiet early morning. I'm never able to just like jump out of bed and be active, and people who can do that sort of overwhelm me. Another thing that makes me feel rich is having good relationships with my family, and I'm really grateful for that because it hasn't always been that way. When I lived farther away from my family, especially when I was in college and the first few years out, I was really impatient with my family, and I was immature, and I thought I knew so much and that I knew about the world better than they did, and I was often critical of them and condescending, and I regret that, but of course you can't go back and change it. You have to just do better from now. And several years ago, I realized, especially in regards to my sister, who, I mean, she's my sister, so we fought growing up, and I always, I kept picking fights even as adults. There were things that I wanted to be right about, and one day I realized my sister and I have this rocky, tumultuous relationship, and we're always on edge and pushing each other's buttons, and I just kind of thought for a minute, what if I quit provoking? What if I let it slide when she pushes one of my buttons? And what if I quit intentionally pushing hers? And it took about 6 months, and now she's my best friend. And I can't imagine fighting with my sister over the things that I used to get really, really defensive about. And and I love her, and I am so glad. And really, it took me just realizing I'd rather have a sister than be right. So, good relationships with your family are priceless. If you don't have them right now, there might be more serious reasons for that. But if it's you and your pride keeping you from having a good relationship, consider the worth of having a good relationship, and that pride might not be worth it. It wasn't for me. I would just go and actually like go back and say everything I thought was wrong, and some of it was, um, and have a good relationship with my sister and my parents, who, of course, I was stubborn and prideful with in other ways. I think one thing that makes me feel rich in this lifetime is, in this situation, is that I don't have a car payment and my vehicle is reliable. So transportation is just very affordable and simple. Something that makes me feel rich is that I'm healthy, and that's something that I try to look after. Uh, I know you don't get to pick everything about that, and I know that you can't control everything about that, but I'm very healthy and I'm lucky about that. And I also do make a lot of choices to protect my health. It's valuable and it gives a foundation so that you can pursue other things, have goals, and get after them. I feel wealthy when I realize that I have good enough stuff for everything that I enjoy doing. Like I mentioned earlier, my bicycle is in tip-top shape actually for what it is, and it does everything that I need it to do. I also have a good enough inflatable kayak. I have good enough camping gear. Um, I have good enough everything that I need to use to enjoy my life and do the activities that I enjoy with my friends or when I'm alone. I have good enough stuff. And that's great because it's kind of like, it's just like, it's covered. If I feel like going on a bike ride one day, I got what I need to do that. If I want to go on a long hike, I have what I need to do that. If I want to go camping, if I want to go kayaking, um, or if people invite me along on their adventures, I don't have to be limited and say, well, shoot, I don't have this or that, and scramble to borrow it or, go into debt with a credit card to quickly buy anything that I need. I have good enough equipment, and it's intangible stuff actually that matters the most. That's the funny thing. That's what makes you actually feel like that sense of peacefulness and freedom from worry. And I could fret and worry about my debt all day long. But what makes me feel rich and keeps me from fretting and worrying all day long is that I have a plan to get out of debt that is in not constant, but often enough adjustment based on my life circumstances, where it remains ambitious and hopeful and possible to get myself out of debt by the time I'm 40, just like I set out to do when I turned 35. And when I turned 35, excuse me, I had $95,000 of debt. And it's going to work. It's actually taking harder work as I go, but it's going to work. So having a plan puts a foundation under me that prevents me from falling into just a pit of stress and worry. So yeah, along with these intangible things that are very worth pursuing and building in your life, just make a plan. Figure out what's reasonable and possible and map it out. How many years would it take to get you out of debt? How many months, maybe? I mean, you might have a much higher income and you might have much less debt. Well, don't joke around with a 10-year plan. Make a 10-month plan. But making a plan makes me feel rich because it kind of takes the worry out of it, and I know that if I just stick to that plan and do what I'm supposed to hit every milestone, this will happen, and that's awesome. And one last thing that helps me to feel rich, even though I'm most definitely not if you were to look at my financials right now, but something that makes me feel rich is that I have tools for bettering myself. I have a job where there's possibility for advancement and opportunities to go to well, I can't go to conferences right now, but I will someday again have the opportunity to go to conferences and to keep learning about the business that I'm in and advance within my own store. Excuse me. And I have things like a laptop and a library card and the ability to search Google for just about any question that crosses my mind. So these tools that I have to keep bettering myself, that also makes me feel rich because I can always do something to make the situation better. So I would love to hear in comments the things that you already have that make you feel rich or at least keep you free from worry. Um, and I hope that you're having a beautiful morning wherever you are. I will see you in a week.